Hey guys, hope all is well. This is episode 57 of the Rugby Recap. You have myself, Rugby H, as well as the Kiwi lads. First one, man, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, Tim. Semi-finals this weekend. Quarterfinals, they all went exactly how we thought they would. I hope that the Reds-Chiefs game was a little bit closer, but every single game just ended up being one-sided, which was the argument of should there have even been quarterfinals in a 12-team competition if they were all just going to be one-sided games.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's one of those, like, when you look at all the quarterfinals, like you said already, Chiefs Reds was kind of the expectation to be the closest out of all the bunch, but really that was kind of one. I actually make an argument that's probably the most dominant performance actually out of all the teams actually was the Chiefs in that game. I thought they just outclassed them completely in that first half and just made it very difficult for even the Reds team to come back into the game. But yeah, I guess in terms of the quarterfinals we had, I mean, I'm trying to think what was the closest. I guess you would say Brumbies Highlanders because at the halftime at least it was like only separated by a point. So I thought that was pretty good in that from that front. But again, of course, the Brumbies kind of ran away with it within the second. So yeah, there's a lot that we can kind of discuss on that point. But at the end of the day, it's the teams who finish 1-4 that do advance to the semis, and yeah, I think this deservedly so. You know, it's one of those where we now kind of get those key matchups, and this is where anything can happen, in my opinion. I feel like we've seen this throughout the previous years, where yes, we haven't had it in a while, like where a 4 or 3 has been a 1 or 2 in these semis, but it is always very, very close. So I'm definitely intrigued. But before we get into this, guys, just make sure to click the like button. Would definitely appreciate that. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And yeah, leave us a comment below. Just let us know your thoughts on the fixtures this week, as well as just your predictions. So let us know in the comments below. But yeah, we'll go straight away to the Super Rugby kind of semifinals. Starting first with that Blues Brumbies game. Just what's your take on that one? Kind of what we saw from both teams in the quarterfinals, and just everything really.
Well, I think the Brumbies had to work harder for their win in terms of those quarterfinals, although you could also make the argument that the Blues, the way that they played, just made it seem like they were handling the draw a lot more than maybe they were expected to, because that's the thing, they just shut the draw out of that game in the first half, and there weren't really many challenges coming back the other way. Drua spent the whole first half under penalty advantage against them, so that was never going to help them, but you know, I feel like this Blues side, the big concern was the fact that Patrick Tuipulotu unfortunately has picked up that injury. They've gone with the slightly younger combo here of Darry and Berry, but I still feel like both of them have had more than potential. Lachlan McWannell must be injured, is the only thing I can think, because how is that man not getting any sort of chance in these games?
He's for what I've read is that he's under concussion protocol, but I'm a bit surprised just because I thought he was only under concussion protocol for the quarterfinals, but it seems that he's still not available for this game. So I'm not sure how that works in a way, because again, he is definitely a player which I think would be, maybe I'm biased in this, but I think he's definitely in the conversation actually for an All Blacks call-up, just because of the locking department really for the All Blacks kind of going down now with Tuipulotu, that like you mentioned. So yeah, look, I was gutted when I saw that again, when he went off injured, I was like, oh no, this is terrible, because it hurts the Blues so much in terms of the semifinals and final, but it hurts the All Blacks even more, really, just because they're in a position where they're already depleted and, well, they're trying to kind of start a new cycle here. And I mean, Scott Barrett is not really 100% still. You have Tuipulotu now, he's out for what, 6 to 8 weeks, and then you have, I mean, your next best option is what? Tupavai, which, by the way, he's a solid lock, but I still wouldn't consider him as like a world-class lock. He's kind of in the conversation where you can get to that stage, but he's not there just yet, I'd say. He's kind of just like, I don't know what the level below would be, but like he's definitely has potential in getting to the world-class stage. But I think Tuipulotu and Barrett, you can definitely make the argument they're in kind of that world-class territory. So it's more just where, yeah, the All Blacks are going to be depleted on that front. But again, we'll talk about that later on. In terms of this game, of course, with the Blues Brumbies, I mean, I know you already mentioned the Brumbies had the easier kind of, I guess, game out of the two. But what do you think in terms of this game? Do you think like the Brumbies will kind of like get a win here? Because we saw this kind of battle literally 2 years ago in 2022, where it was only separated by 1 point. 20 to 19, and it all came down towards kind of that Blues defense actually. And I've been watching kind of like it was all over social media, like there's like watching the last final 10 of that game where the Brumbies score a try, and then you have Alpha with his scrum cap on, like blocking Noah Laseo's shot like in the 80th minutes to stop him, like a drop kick from try to get it. I was like, that's awesome. I love that. So I'm hoping we have a similar kind of dramatic thing to that. What happened in that one? But do you think it'll be a close battle, or just do you think it may be widespread?
Well, it sounds like you're living off nostalgia, Tim.
Oh,
Even
yeah,
though it
I
only
really
happened
am.
not too long ago. Of course, the Blues want their breakout season. They want that 2003 feeling back. But, it's been such a long time. Whole new group of players. They looked really good last week. The Brumbies, though, up against the Highlanders, I actually felt they had the harder game because everyone always felt like the Highlanders were less of an underdog. And 4 times in that game, they did show up at GIO in ways that some other sides haven't been able to throughout the season. But once again, the Brumbies showed their class. They got over the line and they just continued to attack. And I feel like the forward battle in this game is going to be so important. You've got James Slipper back for the Brumbies. He didn't play last week. To be honest, the 2 number ones in this game, it's weird to say, but the outside of scrum battle between those two may actually be one of the best of the semi-final. Ofa Toingafasi, how many tries has that man scored throughout the season? He's supposed to be that number 1 jersey. Xavier Numia, unfortunately, picking up that injury for the Hurricanes. But we've got a lot of number 1 scoring tries throughout this season. Maybe James Slipper can add his name into that mix. But Tom Wright's kicking at the back, I think, is going to be very important. Stephen Petafeta, of course, if they had Sullivan, imagine that kicking battle between Sullivan and Tom Wright. It would just be meters made for days.
Exactly.
But there's a little bit of a change there. Christie once again starting at 9. It's going to be a really intriguing game. And I'll be honest, I feel like the home field advantage is going to bring a lot to the Blues in this game in front of the Eden Park crowd. Seemed to work up against the Drua. Brumbies away from home haven't quite been the same as they've been at home. We've got to remember this is a Brumby side that in that game up against the Chiefs that everyone was like, this one's going down to the wire. They lost by, 30 or 40 points in that game. So I'm going to say the Blues get the job done at Eden Park. But it just depends on whether or not they're going to have a home final or they're going to be heading to Wellington for that final.
Exactly. It'll be interesting because I'm with you, like where that kind of that previous game, you and me both thought it would be a much tighter game than what actually came out of it. But yeah, the Blues just tore them apart in that. But it kind of came down towards the Brumbies making mistakes in that game, not like the Blues like really. I mean, yes, the Blues were pretty strong on the day, but just the Brumbies really were kind of like their own enemy on that day. Really, kind of they let the Blues have like some simple tries in that one. So if they just don't kind of allow that, then it's definitely a lot closer margin. It can be kind of up for a battle between both sides there. Again, for the Blues, another talking point for them and kind of why they'll want to win this even more is that it's going to be, it could be Akira's last home match at the Blues, because of course he has officially announced that he's leaving the Blues after 10 years, and that's a big decision for him. And this is something, by the way, I've talked for a while could happen, because I've always thought if Akira were to move, I would love him to go to Japan, just because he has the ability, I believe, to play for the Japan national team. Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's either like his. I'm not sure how it works. It's either like him, or it's either he was born there, or he has some kind of like heritage. It's one of the two things. But I always remember there was some kind of Japanese connection with him. So that's the reason why I can definitely see a potential reason to why maybe he wanted to move to kind of get international rugby and playing for Japan. It's pretty good actually, because it's a pretty good place to play, and actually gets
he should be able to at least make the international team for Japan.
Yes,
but,
yes, and
to be fair, he's a long way from the ABs though.
I think he honestly had a chance, because I think this year
he's been pretty good game this season.
Well, I mean, he's actually just been pretty consistent, I'd say, throughout this year. Like, he hasn't done anything wrong in this sense. Like,
shit. Let's call it how it is, Tim.
No, he's been good. He's actually been all right. Like, it's not like where like he hasn't. There was one season I remember like where it's like he wasn't. He's like, it's kind of like Reiko this season, where he just wasn't getting minutes because he just was injured throughout like a lot of concussion things similar to Reiko. So that's why for this year I'm kind of happy if he was to be included in the conversations, because he's actually played a lot of games. So he's definitely deserves to be in the conversation. I'm not saying he gets in, by the way. I'm just saying he definitely has the ability to make the All Blacks. And again, with the number 6 still up for kind of, there's not really a definitive 6 really. You can kind of just name on the spot. So that's why his name is going to be thrown in the conversation at least. But But look, for Akir, I'm happy he's going to move, and it's kind of just the best thing for him and his family. But man, I hope he has really like just the perfect send off, and that's kind of a reason why I want him to, well, the Blues really to win, because he is in my eyes, he's like a legend for me, because he's been for the Blues like for a long period of time, where he's kind of seen you could say the dark days, and kind of has risen now to kind of see the potential and how the Blues have grown throughout the previous years. So yeah, he was there from the very start, really. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what we can do in this game. Again, from a kind of a Brumbies perspective, I'm also curious to see how Nola Sale plays, because I'm not sure if you saw this, but recently he got and coincide really with him getting a 1-year extension on his contract to 2025. The news obviously broke out as well that Carter Gordon is off now officially towards the NRL. So it's one of those where there's always something that was kind of, it was good. There was rumors floating about if this were to happen, because there were kind of rumors he was looking at. I think 2 teams are speaking to him, but he's kind of made a decision to go towards the NRL and sign a 2-year deal. So it's going to impact what kind of Nola Sale does in this game, because I imagine if he wins this like semi-final, like in New Zealand, it's like the first time I think a Australian team would win a semi-final in New Zealand since I think like 1997 or something. So it's been a while since that's happened. So if Nola Sale is the player to kind of do that and step up to the occasion, then Matt, he has just put like the biggest tick possible, really, in terms of his CV and getting that kind of 10 jersey for the Wallabies, I believe. So it's a big moment for him as well. So I'm hoping he has a good game. I really do, because I believe he's definitely going to be in the definitely in contention for that 10 jersey. Just depends if he starts or not. But yeah, what's your thoughts on, I guess, both Akira and Nola Sale?
Well, Akira Ioane, I could see him playing that kind of 6 role after Michael Leach, because that's the thing. Michael Leach isn't getting any younger, you know. We've got to admit it. He's, what is he now, like 36, 38, something around there.
He still wants to play. Like, he still wants to play.
And let him play, because he's been a very loyal player to the Japanese side. But eventually, I saw that Akira Ioane, the earliest he can play for Japan, I believe, is November 2025, which isn't actually that far away. That's only 14 months. So as long as he's playing rugby in Japan and staying eligible, like, there is the possibility of him jumping over and having a go with the Japanese international side. Noel Alessio, it may be the case. I know you mentioned how, you know, trying to keep himself in the running, but it may be the case more of last man standing, because if Gordon is leaving to go in 2025, he's still got this season, we should mention, that he is going to be playing for the Wallabies. If they want him, does Joe Schmidt say no? You know, like, we want you, but at the end of the day, you've already signed your deal, so, you know, I would give that to a guy. You wouldn't play him, or you would play him?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't even offer him a place, because it's similar towards Mark Narkwantawasi, like, where when you didn't even include him in the training squad. Like, it's the same scenario here. I feel like if you don't have a future in terms of Rugby Australia, in terms of the long-term project, because again, like we've said this many times, Australia has a lot of things good coming actually for them in the next few years, with a Lions tour, with the Rugby World Cup in the horizon. So if you're choosing to kind of not go in this direction, then you got to look the other way, and it's just really best for both sides, I think. So yeah, I think honestly, I think it's good actually. In a weird way, it's actually as good that it's been done before the selection, because it just makes Joe Smith's kind of mind a lot. I mean, just his decision making just so much easier. And again, yes, you are right that Noah Sale may be seen as the clear favorite, but I honestly think there's still a few other players there who could actually overtake him in that conversation, because there's been talks about, you know, Ben Donaldson being, he was excellent for the Western Force, I'd say. Not I'd say earlier on in the season, but more towards the end, and he kind of like his form kind of picked up then. So he definitely made a name for himself in that case. And then you have kind of like Tom Liner, you could say, for the Reds. He's actually had a very consistent season for them throughout. So I believe that kind of those two are definitely in conversation. And you can even make the argument, I'd say, even for Ted Edmond, because he's had moments. I'm not saying moments, not like where he's been outstanding throughout the year, but he's had moments where he's actually produced at a pretty good level. So yeah, there's still a bit of debate, I'd say, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of happens in kind of the Wallaby standpoint. But I do agree with you from this game. I think I will back the Blues. I think that the Blues just, I think they just have the stronger squad. And like you said, when it comes towards them playing at home, it just goes so much into their favor. Like, I saw this like stat actually that I think the Blues are now, in terms of like the overall Super Rugby history stats, they have like the longest, well, one of the longest unbeaten records at home now. Like, I think it's like they're 4th on the list or like 5th now. So it's pretty impressive what they've been able to do so far. So I think it's like they have 11 or 12, I think, unbeaten at home. It's something along those lines. So it's pretty impressive what they've been able to accomplish on that front. But you never know. The Brumbies are definitely a strong enough team to do it. So I'm not gonna just say the the Blues are gonna run away with this. That's not gonna happen. The Brumbies will definitely push them. So it's gonna be a tight game, I believe. But I do believe the Blues can get the job done. But like you alluded to at the very beginning, doesn't mean we'll get a home final, or doesn't mean we'll go away to Wellington. We'll have to wait and see. But I guess going towards that game really now with the kind of the Hurricanes Chiefs as the next semifinal in terms of Super Rugby Pacific this year. That's one where I think there's a lot more debate, I think, in terms of who actually may come out on top in that one, because I think most people would agree with me saying the Hurricanes definitely deserve to make it into the final. There's no doubt about that. Like, they've been the best team within Super Rugby this year. I think a lot of people would agree on that front, but it's more to the case where can you back it in terms of, this is where it counts. This is where it matters. And I honestly think the Chiefs, like I alluded to at the very beginning, were the most impressive team in terms of that quarterfinal. So I just want to get your take on terms of this game in particular, because this is the big kind of matchup, I believe, in terms of who actually may come up on top here. So let me know your thoughts on this.
Well, the Chiefs, they chose a perfect time to start finding some form, because that game up against the Reds, like we mentioned, it was one of the best halves we had seen from the Chiefs, and perhaps, like, this is an argument, but one of the best halves of rugby we have seen from most sides, if not all sides,
I agree.
in Super Rugby so far throughout the season. Like, everything they were trying would just stick. And whether that was the pickups when the ball had just dropped in front of someone like Kinatina Nanasatoro, I'm surprised to see him in the starting lineup for this game, because did he not get taken off the field for a head knock last game up against the Reds, and then he didn't return to the field?
He did, but I think that did he fail his HIA?
I thought he did, which is why I'm surprised to see him here. Maybe they've said that he failed it, but maybe he just couldn't do the maths or something. But
I think he came back on. I could be wrong in that, but I thought you are
it's
right.
It's a weird one anyway, because I know there was a knock to him, and then I thought that I heard someone say he won't be back, and then I was thinking, well, that means that he's out for next week and the week after that, but he's back. He's good to go.
He's all good.
Although saying that, how many times have we seen sides change their lineup late anyway?
It's true.
Ruben Love's at 15, but is he even going to play? How's his knee? That's the question we got at the moment, because each and every week they seem to try and push it to the limit. Last week they took him out of there, and it's going to be a really good game. The loose forward trios intrigue me in this game. You got the experience of Shields alongside Peter Lakai and Braden Yorsi, two guys who are definitely in the kind of argument for a bolter option for the All Blacks, depending on who else they're going to be going with in that loose forward trio. Sama Penifenau, he's still got the opportunity to really grasp that 6th jersey. Because like you said, there's a few guys who could get themselves that possible 6. And to be honest, Sama Penifenau hasn't scored as many tries this year as I actually thought that he might. With the size and the stature and the way that he runs down a wing when the pass is out wide, like, I expected him to go over a few more times. I still remember that game. I think it was in Queenstown when he hurdled Aaron Smith, if you remember that one, right near the start of, I think it was last year's Super Rugby competition.
Oh, and yes. Yeah,
kind of brought on that debate of, is that allowed? Are you allowed to jump over a guy? But, Aaron Smith, of course, not the biggest bloke to be able to jump over when you're the size of Sama Penifenau. But, this for me, I know that Blues Brumbies feels like it's going to be a close game, right? But I feel like this one's the one that's going to have a bit more feeling in it, if that makes sense. Like, there's going to be a bit of push and shove. There's going to be a bit of something out there on the field, because both of these two sides, the Chiefs haven't had the best season to a certain extent, but they've still been up there in the top 4. People expected them to top the table, or at least be in the top 2. Yet they're sitting there in 4th, and they want to show the top of the table side. They're saying, hey, we can take you down, and then we're going to go on and we're going to beat the Blues too. But then that, of course, would be at Eden Park. Exactly. If that was to happen, and they'd have to lose.
This is why it's one of those. This is one of those games where, in a weird way, I mean, I anyway want the Chiefs to win this game, but also it's even better if they win it because it helps the Blues actually because they'll go to Eden
Get
Park.
over it, Tim. Your Blues are all right anyway, aren't they?
Hey,
Wouldn't it be
much
more rewarding if the Blues were able to win a game away from home to take the title rather than at home? Beating the best of the bunch, the side that's already beaten them this season and beaten them in their own backyard. Tim, that sounds like the kind of Blues intensity and the kind of team that they are, that they want to take down the best away to be able to get themselves that title. Don't you agree?
No.
You want the easy way out. You want the easy way.
Chance. We're not ruined it. We actually kind of screwed up our opportunity the first time around against the Crusaders.
Who's we?
The Blues.
The Blues.
When I say when I use the word we, it's only for two teams: the Blues and the Springboks. That's all you need to know, guys. But for the Auckland Blues, like we screwed up our opportunity. When we played the Crusaders, what was it? I think it was. Well, now it's like 2 years ago, I believe. So it's one of those where, like we didn't kind of live up to the expectation in that final, to be completely honest. So it's one where we have to, if we were to get a home final, then man, we gotta do much better than what we did in the last time. But again, coming back towards this game, I think in terms of the players you mentioned, I agree with you that Brendan USA as well as Peter Lackey are going to be, pretty important players, I'd say, for the Hurricanes in terms of that loose forward pack. But honestly, I think the player who, and again, this comes down towards what we saw in that kind of Chiefs game and how well they played. I think the player of the round was actually Wallace Atiti. I thought he was outstanding, like unbelievable. And actually, this may be, maybe just because it's recency bias, to say the least, but just off that game, I'm now even starting to think of him and what he would maybe even look like in terms of like an All Black jersey, or at least even like an All Blacks kind of XV jersey, because I believe he deserves that kind of opportunity, kind of make it the next step up, I believe. So I think he's been really impressive, actually. I've looked at his stats, actually, the more and more following that game. I'm like, wow, like he's actually he's actually been very underrated in terms of what he's done this year. So I believe he's definitely going to be in the conversation. And I think it's one of those where that battle between him and Brandon Oasis is going to be a key battle kind of matchup, you can say, in terms of this game. I'm trying to look, from the back standpoint, you have what? Billy Proctor and Anton Brown. That's going to be a great matchup there in the 13 jerseys. Like you alluded to, I believe, with Ruben Love at 15, he'll be going against like Sean Stevenson, who
there's many good ones.
There's an argument where only one of them could even make the All Blacks. So this is the game that decides it. So it's one of those like where there's a lot on the line in terms of this game, I believe. Just going off that point there. Okay, so this is a two-part question.
Oh,
this is a separate question. One, who would you prefer? So I'm not saying in terms of the context of this game. Who do you prefer to make the All Blacks out of Ruben Love and Sean Stevenson? So just answer that one first, and I'll answer you the second one.
Can't believe you didn't put Bowden Barrett in there, Tim. What a star he is at the moment, eh?
We're not thinking about him right now. Just out of these two, who would you prefer to make the All Blacks?
Well, I know that this is a fence-sitting kind of answer, but it does also a little bit depend on who else is in that back line for me, because if you are going to have the combination in the midfield of Geordie Barrett and Proctor as your All Blacks combo, I would have Ruben Love there. Whereas if you're going to have Anton Leonard-Brown and maybe even Quintal Pyer in that inside centre jersey, you do have to go with Stevenson as that fullback. You've got so many little switches that can happen, but I believe you got to build team chemistry, and that's something.
But what if it's Geordie and Rico, which is just let's just say that's the likely.
Rico there, mate? He's
that's like the likely.
He hasn't scored a try for the Blues in over 1 year.
Let's just say what it's
400 days.
By the way, I'm not going off form. I'm just saying what is going to be the likely. If you just have to say right off the bat, who do you think is going to be there? It's Geordie and Rico. So in that case, if those two were to be the two, who would then? Because then this is where.
I would go Stevenson for the sake of how close he's been for so long.
Okay.
Because I know not for a fact, but I've got a pretty high inkling that if Love's the man who they select, Stevenson should go to the NRL. And that's because he will get a lot of money there. There you go. How about that for a call?
Is he been linked with that?
He was rumoured for the Dolphins, I believe, last year, and he decided to stick around. Wow. I believe this is the information that I've known. But he decided to stick around for the sake of, after that Foster era of being able to get into the All Blacks, because he's been so close. He's been that guy who got into the squad for a little bit, got to play, I think, one game, didn't he, for the ABs in the end due to injuries. And, he's in that situation now how, once again, if the money's good, and the NRL is saying, look, we just got Carter Gordon and Mark Nwanga Netoasi. Why don't we also get ourselves a little bit of Sean Stevenson? What do they call Sean Stevenson? What's his nickname? I can't think of it. It's something that sounds kind of not dodgy, but is it the sniper or what's the nickname that he's got at the moment?
You are right. There is a nickname. Oh, this is so bad.
But I feel like nicknames work well in the NRL, so
yeah, no, you are right.
He might do as well. So we'll see. Yeah. But for me, I think I'd go Stevenson just for that little bit more size that he's got. Okay. Like Ruben Love is a very handy player, and I feel like if it was the Barrett Proctor combo, I would go Love, but that wasn't.
I understand where you're going from. So, in terms of the second part of that question, then, because you said from just your standpoint there, in terms of this game, who do you think will get the better out of each other in terms of that one? Because, again, both of them have had a good season, I'd say. And, you could say Stevenson probably had.
Stevenson had a great start, didn't he? And then he kind of went quiet and then back up.
Brilliant start, actually. So this is the problem. I was about to say Love didn't actually have a good. I was like, no, that's actually wrong. Love probably had a better start than Stevenson, actually. But I think Stevenson probably later on, during the middle of the season was better. But again, he did get injured late on, so that's why he hasn't been able to he didn't get a lot of minutes, and then that's where Ruben Love kind of picked up a bit. It's interesting. And then of course he played in that quarterfinal, but Ruben Love didn't. So it's kind of kind of goes.
For your question, I'm going Sean Stevenson because I don't know the extent of Ruben Love's injury.
Okay,
because
that's fair.
The amount of games that he's had to miss recently, and the amount of games that we've felt he should have been taken off earlier, and they've slowly just kept on pushing him, even though he's limping and he can hardly run. They're like, oh, we'll leave him out there for 10 more minutes just to see how he goes. So I'm going Stevenson because I believe he will be the fresher of the two. But he's going to be a good one because we haven't even mentioned Taukiaho versus Amua in this game.
That'll be awesome. Yeah.
There's a chance that those two are two All Blacks hookers plus, I guess, maybe Cody Taylor is the other guy who gets that call at the moment.
It's 100% Cody Taylor. There's not even a doubt. You don't
see.
No.
Razor, what's Razor thinking? We don't know. Is he going to bring back Dane Coles for a bit of biffo? We don't know.
Dan Coles. You want to bring back Dane Coles in this? He's not going to bring
Dane back. We're just having a bit of fun, mate. That's what Dane Coles would say.
Yeah,
as he throttles a guy.
Exactly. I don't know why. I'm just now reminding myself of that try where that try with the Hurricanes kind of they scored in the corner in Eden Park, and they got Bowden to celebrate them as soon as he was wearing the Blues jersey. But I found it so funny. But no, back to kind of with the hookers. I'm surprised you're saying maybe if you can say he is 100% the starting hooker. It's not even a conversation. I think Cody Taylor is just you can just tell what the level since he's even come back. I'm just man, you can somewhat forget how good he is just because of his sabbatical. But man, he just reminded me. He is. he is definitely a world-class hooker, and you can make the argument you can make the argument. I'm not saying he is, but you can make the argument he's actually the best hooker in the world. So it's one of those
Malcolm Marx here. You say that, Tim.
Yeah, this is what. Well, I mean, from my standpoint, where I'm obviously gonna where I'm kind of lying towards, but no, you can make the argument Cody Taylor's up there. So it's hard though because when you have someone like him and you have two of these guys with Taukiaho and Safa Moa, both of them have been crazy good this year. And again, I'd say Moa has probably been the better out of the two. I'd say probably more throughout the year, but again, he kind of did miss a few games at the end, and I think that's where kind of Samisoni kind of picked up in terms of his form. So you can maybe say it's closer than what it looks like, but look, it's going to be awesome, this game. It's going to be awesome. But I mean, if I had to give my stance in terms of who I think will win, gosh, I don't actually know. This is one where you normally just say, oh yeah, Hurricanes are going to win this, but the Chiefs they have something about them which I'm just trying to think of a reason why they couldn't win this. That's kind of the way I'm going about that. Why can't the Chiefs win this? It's not more why the Hurricanes can't win, because I think they can definitely win. I'm just trying to think what is stopping the Chiefs from winning this game. And I can't really they have a brilliant 9-10 combo with Ratima and McKenzie. They have a better 9-10 combo. They definitely have the better 9-10 combo. They have, from a center standpoint, it's Mimpo Hippie and Brown. I mean, I probably would say Hurricanes win that battle in terms of centers. back line, it's pretty. Oof, it's close, but I'd probably say the Chiefs. Then I'd say
I think the Canes have to suffocate McKenzie. Not literally, but metaphorically.
Yeah, I know what you mean. He's the conductor. He's the one kind of conducting what they do. So, yeah, you know what? I agree with you. You know what? That's what I'll say. If McKenzie isn't good on the when we see him on Saturday, if he's not on his best form, then I think the Hurricanes will win this. But if he is good, then I believe the Chiefs will win. So I think the direction I'm kind of going is I think the Chiefs will win this game, but McKenzie has to be on form. That's so there's an asterisk with that, but I'm saying the Chiefs. So yeah, what's your take on this one? Do you think the Hurricanes get the job done, or are you also going to sway with me on this one?
Well, Tim, on Tuesday I fitted some double glazed windows, and that may sound like a random statement.
Yeah. I was like, okay, where is this going to?
The bloke's house that we fitted them at. He's a very avid rugby supporter. He loves a little bit of ruggers, and he's done relatively well in terms of his own career type thing. He's had some good moments in the past, and we were talking when we probably should have been working, but he is a Canes supporter through and through. Even though he's from Canterbury, he's a Hurricanes man, and he said that the way that they play rugby hasn't changed. The way that they attack when they just let it flow, when Salisi Reasi gets going, it's very impressive to watch. And, he had a bit of the gift of the gab, and he was pretty much convincing me that the Canes were going to win this Super Rugby season. And tell you what, Tim, I believe him. I think that the Canes...
I wasn't convinced.
I told him to. But no, I think that the Hurricanes... Boy, they're in good form this year, And yes, up against the Rebels, there was a little bit of a stutter, but like he said, they just needed that second half, and the Rebels were out on their feet. They were gasping for air, and the Canes were putting the dagger in. So, I'll go the Canes this game, I guess. Yeah, and those windows look bloody beautiful, Tim. They looked pristine.
Fair enough. Oh, well, that's good to hear, because that is important, of the job if it wasn't done like that. But yeah, no, okay, so you are going the Hurricanes then.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'd be disappointed in myself if I didn't.
That was so good. But okay, we'll move away then from Super Rugby, guys. We'll move on then towards the URC. Again, we have some semifinals as well this weekend, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Again, this is kind of what we predicted. Actually, I think we predicted all four of these kind of teams get advanced towards the stage. So looks like we're doing pretty well on that front. But I guess starting off with the big one, Leinster versus Bulls. I mean, this is going to be. I don't know what way this is going to go. I'm going to let you talk first here. What's your thinking going into this game?
Well, I've had my big speech already, but Bulls versus Leinster, of course, is going to be a home game at Loftus for the Bulls in this game. Yeah. And that's going to play a big factor. The Irish, of course, is going to be a bit of a preview for them of what's going to happen in July. This is pretty much a Bull side that, honestly, have looked extremely strong this season. But we have to mention the elephants in the room. And that is no Kutli Arnsa, and that is no Kanan Moody, two wingers who have lit this competition on fire throughout this year. How much of a difference is that going to make in the way that they play? Don't get me wrong, Sebastian de Klerk, he's a great player, but boy, did he get dominated by Onisi Ratave last week. It just seemed to be that there was nothing that man could do to stop the big Fijian from making meters and getting Benetton back into that game, because they were extremely close to winning that contest. They almost won that in South Africa. So, Kutli Arnsa, as soon as he went off the field, he scored 2 tries before that point, and then it went silent for the Bulls, and that makes me concerned. But David Kriel, boy, is he playing well, so he's got to get a little bit of a shot, because I honestly feel if he plays well throughout the rest of the season, even if he didn't play that well, he should still be in the Springboks. The way that he has played this year has been immense. I don't really know, because Leinster haven't, they looked rough up against Ulster and they still won it kind of comfortably. Yeah. And that seems to be the trend that we've got at the moment, is some of the best sides are looking bad, But then they still win the game by about, what are those, like 16 points in the end, Leinster won that game by. So to be able to come back into a game after you have looked like, oh, okay, this isn't good, but
wake up.
Still win the game. It's going to be a really good one. And I do wonder how much of an impact those two missing players are going to have for the Bulls. I know that they say like certain players don't make a team, but they go a long way.
They do.
Those
they
two,
definitely do.
They kind of help a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, like you said, like just remind me with Kurt Lee. I know Caden's injury, but with Kurt Lee, is it just what is the injury?
I believe it was he might be a bit like a tendon Satora. He failed his HIA in the last game. Okay. So normally that means you're not there for the next week, you're not there for the week after, but there seems to be a loophole that you can say, oh, no, he just forgot the questions, so that's why he didn't get them right, and now he's back out there,
So what you're saying is that he will be available for the Box. That's the main thing.
Yes, okay, don't worry, Tim.
Good.
Although you've got a few good options out on the wing at the moment for the Springboks.
Well, I mean, Cheslin,
we will find out.
Cheslin recently said that he was out, and then now he's back in the camps because he got a specialist opinion. So I don't know if he's going to be available or not.
I heard that he was gone, but he's got a big sponsorship deal with Prime now, doesn't he? That's a bonus.
Yes, maybe those electrolytes can help him. But yeah, look, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens in this game. But look, I'll be completely honest. When I saw both those players out, I was like, okay, Leinster I think they may win this, and I'm just saying that because of what I saw through the highlights of that Benetton Bulls game. I felt like Bulls, like they let them kind of come back into the game, and it's exactly what you said. As soon as Curley went off, everyone was like, "Okay, we got to win the game, guys! Like we got to hold them off." So, yeah, I think Leinster actually may do the job here. I think Leinster just have too much in them to not do it, really. So I think they will. I think they'll win the game. That's kind of the direction I'm going in, and I assume kind of the way you were speaking, that's kind of the direction you're also going in as well.
No, Tim. Unlike you, I have South African loyalty, so I'm going with the Bulls.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
No, I know that statement will get you in trouble, of course, because you're a Springbok through and through, aren't you? But yeah, I honestly
every South African team, by the way.
Oh, what? Why not? They wear blue. They're literally pretty much the closest to your team's colour that there is.
No, mate. If they were a part of Super Rugby, it doesn't mean that I'm not gonna support any of them. Like if I to the case of, to be fair, I make the argument like where if I had to, if the Blues,
if someone
exist,
forced you to,
well, if the Blues just kind of like what happens with what's happening to the Rebels this year, if they're just kind of non-existent now within Super B, and if I had to support another team based within South Africa, I would probably support the Sharks because that's the team I've always kind of liked. I've always liked them kind of when I was younger because like they always had some great players back in that team. Like Bulls, actually, I that's the team I wouldn't even support. Actually,
I feel like you're digging a hole, Tim. Yeah, you just sound like you really dislike
the Lions. Actually, sorry, scratch that. Maybe not the Sharks, the Lions actually, because I always liked when Malcolm Marks, Franklin Mostert, Flaf de Klerk, like man, when that team when they always got to the finals like a few times, I was so impressed by what they actually. I'd say the Lions. The more I think about it, I don't even know why I said the Sharks. I think I just liked the Sharks for 1 year. Like when they had like Fassi, Bimby, they had good. I mean, Curtin Bosch. I know a lot of people are very 50-50 on him, but I saw that he's off now. At least he's got I think he's going to the French Pro 2 division, if I'm not mistaken. He's joining. You're gonna have to tell me if I'm wrong here, but I believe he's joining the same side as Courtney Laws. I think. I could be wrong on that. I could be wrong on that, but anyway, like I think just like if I had to, it definitely would have been the Lions if I had to support one team. But yeah, look, so you are going with the Bulls. Essentially, that's kind of what you're saying for this.
Yeah. I feel like I know that altitude may not play as much of a factor in this game as some people feel that it will, but I think that Loftus, they have to just show up the Bulls because at the end of the day, Munster, everyone's looking at them in their game up against Glasgow, and whether or not there is a home field advantage around the corner for them, it's a little bit similar to the Blues Brumbies situation. How, if one of these two sides get themselves the win, there is a chance they could have that home final, depending on what happens in Munster versus Glasgow, which I know is definitely the least talked about out of these two games for the semi-finals. But just to quickly transition to it, boy, there is a battle that's going to take place, and that is the tackling in that game. Both of these sides, they just love tackling it over 90%. So it's honestly going to be such a good defensive chess match that a lot of people will probably call boring rugby, but I call absolutely lovely to watch here.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
you gotta love a good. Don't you love a good tackle, Tim?
Yep.
You know,
hey, that's what the Blues are doing this year. So I'm enjoying that kind of rugby. So I knew you hate
Blues.
That.
The Canes are gonna take him, Tim.
Gosh.
You know that bloke whose window's now in told me the Canes are gonna win.
And by the way, I actually just reminded myself for the good thing about for the Blues game as well, for the Blues Brumbies, we actually play first. So at least if the Blues were to win that, then we'll we don't have to we have an extra day, and we can also watch to see what happens. So it's good on that front. But of course,
it's going to be a terrible way to start the weekend, isn't it?
Yeah. But of course, with Munster, because I believe they did finish top, so this Leinster Bulls game is going to be one of those where even if they win, they're still waiting on to find out the results of this. So it's more like it's kind of just a vice versa situation. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. I think just for this, guys, what I've seen from both these sides, I just think Munster's has looked like the better team throughout this year. And just, I mean, in that quarterfinal as well, they were just pretty good in that quarterfinal. Not saying Glasgow weren't, by the way, because they did well to take care of the Stormers and that. But I just think Munster just are the better side. So that's why I'd go with Munster there. And again, that would be a Munster-Leinster final to what I'm going off. But for you, are you looking towards maybe a Glasgow one? Maybe Glasgow Bulls? I mean, that would be pretty cool. I'd love that. That's a final I would enjoy more watching, actually. But I'm just going with the more realistic one, to be fair. So that's kind of the way I'm going about it. But for you, what are you thinking then?
See, for me, at first glance, I'm thinking a Bulls Munster final.
Okay.
You know, just Leinster, they've been here before at this point where they've just lost the Champions Cup.
Yeah.
You know, playoff game, and then they go into the URC and then they do lose a game that they should have won. And I feel like Munster at the moment, you know, the thing that's been so impressive, like I mentioned, it's just the defence, you know. Goal line defence when you're 5 metres out from your own line and even less, and being able to stop sides for 15 phases from getting over your try line. Like, it can be a little bit of a lost start in some of the games that we see. But, you know, Glasgow, they only conceded a couple tries, which I know a couple sounds like a decent amount, but you got to remember a lot of these games this year we've been seeing bonus points for one, if not both teams throughout. You know, both sides getting themselves 4 tries in a contest, whereas, Glasgow and Munster, you know, they've had some really good battles throughout this season in terms of close games that they've been able to win through their defence. So I think that Bulls-Leinster is probably going to be the more attacking game of the weekend, but I think that Bulls-Munster is going to be the one that, Glasgow-Munster is going to be the one that just has that real, like, you know, you're going to watch it and kind of go, you know, like a little bit of get a bit of growling going at your TV. I probably can't do that because I'll be commentating, so I think they might get a bit concerned if I'm sitting here growling. They may think I've just got rabies or something. Yeah, it wouldn't be ideal. You know what's happening in the game. You know,
the live chat, like, does it have any help? Like,
I've been asking that quite a bit in the chat recently. I feel like I'm losing my marbles slowly, Tim. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, man. I saw last week what you were doing with the whole amount of live streams. Like, man, what are you doing to yourself? Like, you want some sleep, mate.
That was the 4th time that I've got sick before a weekend as well, just in winter.
Jeez, that is
so. Like, I was feeling awful throughout those streams, but we managed to get through them. That's the good thing, you know.
Yeah,
it's the main thing.
Exactly. Yeah, the main thing. Yeah, the main thing. But yeah, fair enough. So it seems that you are going to go then for Munster then. Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, we'll leave it there, guys. Again, I mean, is there any other news you want to speak of? Or
well, of course, the Springboks announced their squad, but we'll probably go into depth of that a little bit more next week.
Yeah,
when they're going head-to-head with Wales. Chisholm Colby, is he going to be in there? Is he not? Sounds like no, but maybe. You know, get those electrolytes, like you said, going, get him in his prime, ready to go for that Irish series that is just around the corner. Boy, that's a big series, and that's only like 2-3 weeks away, isn't it?
It is crazy. Like, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think as well that England, Japan, Springbok, Wales are like literally what, in 2 weeks? Is it 2 weeks time or in 1 week time?
They're like from when we're filming this, like 10 days.
Yeah, in 10 days. Yeah, so it's crazy. It is actually
It is
crazy.
crazy.
But,
do you know if there's an overlap between the URC final and that Springboks Wales game? Out of curiosity.
ooh, actually, that's
Because
a good question.
I thought about that the other day, and I was like, man, I hope that's not the case. Like,
Yeah,
I really hope that there's no overlap.
would stink. Well, it's
I'm
not
going to
on.
quickly get the URC final.
That's what, I'm looking at
time,
URC right now.
but I'm looking at URC, so we can't both.
Well, I'm gonna look there first.
Okay.
Grand final. Yeah, so it's Sunday the June the
So it's
23rd.
a 4 a.m. kickoff for us
Yeah.
here in New Zealand, is
Yeah.
what I've got there. So
Yeah, for
I'm
me,
just
it's
going to
like
quickly
midnight.
load up, because the Barbarians game's also taking place on that day, isn't it?
I
With
believe so.
Barbarians versus Fiji. I really
Yeah.
hope that they haven't completely messed this up and they're going to have overlaps for the biggest couple games.
Is that game even going to be shown though? That's the thing. I've seen reports. I mean, again, this is obviously where we'll see if it's wrong or not. But I've seen reports that the South Africa Wales game is the only one that's actually being shown.
That would be
Depending on
pretty
where.
rough, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously we'll have to wait and see what
Ooh.
happens there because.
Okay. I have
yeah.
information, Tim. South Africa versus Wales happens 3 hours before the URC final. Barbarians versus Fiji happens 15 minutes after kickoff in the URC final.
Oh, so then you're gonna have to cover one for what it is essentially.
I have to get someone else to cover the other.
Oh,
Tim.
maybe unless I'm already doing it.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh,
To be fair, I
well.
mean, like, it's not like I mean, it's Barbarian. I mean, Barbarians Fiji will be good. It'll be a good game. That's why I'm excited to do it.
We'll have to get the checkbook out.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez Louise. But anyway, guys, we'll leave it there. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and yeah, see you guys next time.